And we're back. Judy Nathans.
And I'm still Robert Winters.
Yeah, Cambridge InsideOut.
And we're still nerding out on election
Yes.
results, sort of at the nitty-gritty data level here.
Yeah.
Since we just ended the last half hour just talking a little bit about how you could use the actual ballots to elect, well, we do proportional representation to do a series of runoffs to bring it down to a field of 9 for the city council and to a field of 6 for the school committee.
Right.
But if you would actually continue that same process to elect just one, whittle it down to the one person left standing after this long series of runoffs, what we just announced here that in fact had you done that for the city council ballots, the last person standing actually would have been, Nadeem Mazen would have been there almost to the very end. But then when you get down to 3 candidates, one feeds the other and Denise Simmons leaps into the lead and becomes the instant runoff mayor.
So that in your, I mean, that the way but is it done that way? Or?
No, of course, the individual the councilors just vote amongst themselves who's going to be mayor. But
that's a good, interesting prediction.
Yeah,
it would be fair.
It's actually very interesting how closely aligns with things. I mean, sometimes it's actually a person who was like the finished 9th ends up being elected mayor because they don't want to strengthen the hand of the top vote getter. They'd rather perfectly okay strengthening the hand of the person who was the last person elected. So there's a lot of kind of twisted logic.
And how does vice mayor get chosen? Is that just...
Vice mayor is, quite honestly, it's usually somebody who helped facilitate the delivery of votes for the mayor. That's how it's often done.
Okay.
You know, but the vice mayor is a pure formality. It doesn't have any special
Well, they take
authority.
over when they're not there, right?
But they don't have to, honestly. If the mayor just says, you know, Tim, could you be mayor? Could you chair the meeting? Whoever's going to chair. I mean, if somebody just leaves the room, they don't give the gavel to the vice mayor. They give it to whoever's handy at the time. So, you know, and I think that I don't know if somebody were to, you know, some tragedy were to befall the mayor, I don't know that the vice mayor becomes mayor. I think they just vote for who the new mayor is. Right.
It's not like vice president?
No, it's not like vice president at all.
Okay.
Now the thing is, you could do the same thing with the school committee ballots. So there were 6 people elected to the school committee.
Should we take a look at that?
We actually can't do it because it's not graphic. All I can do is I ran the
this is different.
Yeah, so just
are you talking about
we'll just sort of say this first here. All right, so you know the top vote getter was Patty Nolan, and then Freddie Fantini, Richard Harding, et cetera, et cetera. So you would expect that the person with a lot of the most #1 votes will get a big advantage in this, and in this case, it actually persists right to the end. And in fact, Patty Nolan would end up edging Freddie Fantini 7,481 to 4,820, a hands-down victory, and then Patty would prevail as vice. It's actually called there is a position they do elect amongst themselves called vice chair of the school committee. The mayor,
because the mayor is the chair. Right. I see.
But the vice chair, by tradition or by charter, I don't know. I think it's by tradition, is the one who is chooses the council, the school committee committees, the subcommittees.
All right.
So there's a little bit of there's a little bit of authority.
Who was it last time? Do you know?
I don't remember. Probably Freddie, but I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure though. Yeah, honestly, because it's not.
I know.
You know, no offense, but it's not that important a distinction, really.
All right.
Right. So perhaps what we could do is we could take a look here a little bit at how the school committee went by ward and precinct.
Okay.
And just to see how that kind of shakes down here.
There we go.
All right.
Okay.
Now, when you look at for school committee here, again, you know, wards 1 through 11. There were fewer candidates, so the chart's a little simpler here. There were only 11 candidates rather than 23. Again, I'm not showing all the differences from 2013 to 2015 in here, but there's similar pattern that happened. One thing you'll notice, actually, I'll just say this first, is that there were very few invalid ballots on the city council. There were a total of 105. Most of them are just ballots that were cast blank. But with the school committee, it's almost always the case that there are a lot more blank ballots cast.
I see
and those are they have no valid choices, so we call those invalid ballots.
It's over 1,000.
Yeah, there could be other ways in which a ballot could be invalid, like if somebody just gave a number 1 to everybody and that's it, then it can't really be credited to anyone. So instead of the 105 for the city council, there are 1,062 for the school committee. So you know, a lot more blank ballots, essentially what it translates into.
Yeah.
Right? Now, what this chart doesn't show here is what the changes in the various wards were from 2013 to 2015. So I'll just say that it was the same as it was in the city council, not surprisingly. After all, every voter gets a city council and a school committee ballot. So if the total number of ballots for city council goes up, then the school committees will as well. So there were 155 extra ballots cast for the school committee in Ward 1, 129 in Ward 11, and the big drop-off was once again in Ward 8, which is just west, in and around Harvard Square. My suspicion is just that there were candidates who 2 years ago were recruiting voters to come out to vote in and around Harvard. Logan Leslie, perhaps chief among them, were not in the race this time, so there was a 244 vote drop in that one ward as a result. I mean, there are other factors as well. Some of the things that I did find interesting here, Patty Nolan, who had a rather overwhelming surplus of ballots 2 years ago, she still had a comfortable surplus this year. She had 3,006 ballots, and I forget what was quota?
2,000 something?
Yeah, 2,000 something. So she had a lot of extra ballots to give still, but she actually had scored over 900 ballots fewer than she had the year, 2 years ago.
So where did they go to?
Well, that's a little bit of sort of the art of trying to discern this stuff here, I suppose. But a lot of the ballots that she lost showed up as gains for Jay Crutchfield and Emily Dexter, primarily, I would say.
Okay.
As well as David Weinstein, who was a new candidate from up around Cambridge Highlands. Right. So they kind of scattered a bit. Of course, remember there were also some candidates 2 years ago, like Joyce Gerber and Mervyn Osborne, who were not running this year.
There was no empty seat last time, was there?
There was no. I don't
remember.
Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. But the point is that there were a lot of those votes didn't come back. Patty lost some of them, so those were available for some candidates like Crutchfield and Dexter. Remember, Crutchfield wasn't particularly well known around the city, but he was listed amongst the Mazin group, so he took, I think, got a little wind in his sails from being associated with Mazin, so he got some citywide vote, which he might not otherwise have
Bowman did
gotten.
very well, #1 votes.
Yeah, definitely. So anyway, what you see is certain candidates actually do very well. I'll just mention, for example, Bowman did pretty well across the city, particularly in Ward 11. I forget where she lives, but sometimes it's where you live, but I don't think she lives there. I think she lives down in Wellington-Harrington neighborhood.
Which is what ward?
Down around the 3s and 4s and around there. Pia Cisternino, her top precinct was 9-3. Again, usually this is close to where the candidate might actually live. Fran Cronin lost a fair number of votes this time. She actually dropped 414 from 2 years ago, which is primarily the reason why she was not reelected.
Seems to be the same, wards that vote her and some of the newcomers. So there's a lot of competition there.
Very much. Right. Emily Dexter's biggest support was in Ward 10, and it did bring her a victory ultimately. And anyway, there's plenty of other things. One of the things I actually find interesting as I go through here is that on the school committee side, there's candidates like Fred Fantini. If you actually look at the ballots that he gets this year versus 2 years ago, they're almost identical.
Pretty spread out too. I mean,
he lost a few ballots. He dropped 138 votes. But if you look at that, there were a few precincts where he gained, a few that he lost, but for the most part, they were almost the same. And the same thing on the. So to me, that suggests a candidate who has highly identified their prime voters and keeps in personal touch with them to make sure they come out and vote and they give them their #1 votes. On the city council side, Tim Toomey is the comparable candidate. His votes were almost identical. Very little change from precinct to precinct from 2 years ago. So he's as steady as you go, ID your voters, make sure they come out to vote kind of candidate. Right? So some candidates run a citywide campaigns where they pretty much just advertise themselves and then hope for the best. But I think the more successful candidates are definitely the ones year after year after year just identify their chief voters and make sure they come out and vote. pretty much old school politics there, in a big way.
Yep.
All right. So anyway, before we go blind on these numbers here, maybe
do you want to cancel that one out? Okay, let's go back to us.
Come back here, if we can make it happen.
There we go.
All right.
Oops.
All right. Now we get both of us. Look, we get superimposed with numbers and computers now.
Well, let's see.
Isn't that wonderful?
All right. Well, you can help us out. Well, you know what?
Yeah, high tech. So
I don't know why that's happening, because it's nothing changed over here, but
I don't know.
maybe it'll be all right.
Maybe it'll just
There.
just do it again. So it's
There we go.
must be a loose
Figured
wire.
something
Here,
out.
I'll just spray a little WD-40
Okay.
on the computer.
It's all good.
We'll fix it up.
All right. So where do we go now?
So I suggest what we do is we look at these alternate measures, going back to the city council for a bit.
Okay.
These alternate measures of popularity.
All right.
All right. So, let's hopefully that. Alrighty. So we're up here on the computer screen, and let's see if we can make that work.
There we go.
All right. Now this has nothing to do with the election. Exactly.
Okay.
It is
This
this
is your own
information that's derivable from by looking at the individual ballots, right? So to look at the box in the upper left, what that shows is what we saw in the first count.
This one?
Is based just on the number one votes.
Okay.
So you see Mazin tops the ticket with 1929, followed by Simmons, Marr, Kelly, etc. in decreasing order. So they're ranked 1 through 9 with Dennis
These are number one votes.
Just number one.
Right.
And you see Dennis Benzan.
He makes the cut there.
Just based on this particular
Right.
measure of popularity,
Right.
which is what I want to re-emphasize is not the way the election
Right.
works.
Right.
Dennis Benzan ends up in the top 9. Dennis Carlone is ranked 11th. Now, as we know, that's not how the election turns out. Dennis Carlone's being elected 9th, and Dennis Benzan doesn't win. If you look at the ballots and you pose the question, is a candidate ranked either first or second? So that's what we just say, the top two, anywhere in the top two. That's what the second box shows you.
Right here. Okay.
So in the second box, it says here, so Nadeem Mazin is listed either first or second on 3,418 ballots, followed closely by Denise Simmons on 3344, then Marr, McGovern. So most of this is similar
To the ones.
Yeah, but you see some rather significant changes start to happen. Right? For example, in number one votes, Jan Devereaux ranks 6th, but if you say, is the candidate ranked either first or second, Jan Devereaux drops to 10th.
Yeah,
so
interesting.
She's out of the top 9. Whereas Dennis Carlone,
moves up.
who was 10th originally, jumps up into the 9th slot.
Any explanation for that? Or?
I think some of it has to do with incumbency. So you may be ranked first or second. I think part of it is also the kind of confounding role of the Connolly ballots here, in that there are a lot of those Connollys had a Carlone too, in higher numbers in the other way. So
Kelly also comes down in that second.
Kelly drops down this time
to
very, very much.
Yeah.
When you go and you kind of say, okay, so the third box, moving left to right, basically poses the question, is a candidate ranked either first, second, or third, anywhere in the top 3? And at this point, Denise Simmons takes over the top in that measure of popularity.
Yeah.
So, one might argue that the depth of support, as opposed to just the number one ranking.
The depth of support, I like that. That's something to think about.
So Denise Simmons, her strength as a popular candidate starts to show itself much more when you start counting top 3.
Top 3.
Mazin drops a little bit. David Marr, Chung. So a lot of it's still more or less as it was. Devereaux stays there down. So she came in on the strength of a lot of number one votes from West Cambridge, but elsewhere around the city she was not ranked
not that
much
popular,
at all. So she drops a little bit in the rankings. If you the lower left box shows if you're ranked anywhere in the top 1 through 4, and you see Mazin's creeps ahead of Simmons there, right? I suspect that's probably because he picked up some number 4 votes behind Carlone, Devereaux, Connolly as part of the Residents Alliance slate, right? So he wasn't sort of one of their top ones, but he just shows that he was probably listed 4th on a fair number of those. And then when you count top 5, Denise Simmons is back into the lead. And then if you were to, the very last box, the lower right, since there are 9 people to be elected, you might say, well, let's just see if somebody's selected anywhere in the top 9. I mean, one might argue if you're going to get ranked below 9, then that's hardly a measure of support. So,
right.
So I didn't really go beyond 9 here. But in that case, Denise Simmons comfortably starts to take over the top spot with that level of depth of support.
Well, it's interesting because Jan Devereaux does not have that depth of support.
No, she doesn't have the depth of support at all.
She just had a lot of #1 votes.
Yeah, and they were all concentrated just in a few select precincts of the city, right? Whereas the other candidates are better known. Now, to be fair, some of it has to do with the power of incumbency.
Right.
If you're an incumbent, you have better name recognition. The likelihood is you're actually going to get named. Whereas otherwise, maybe not so.
Yeah.
Right. So as I say, this doesn't in any way affect who's going to be elected, but I think it's somewhat in sync with what I mentioned at the end of the first half hour. Would if you were to use the ballots to determine who's going to be the
next mayor,
then what you find is that Denise Simmons is the one who ultimately prevails because she does have a fair amount of depth of support.
Cross city.
Cross city. Yeah. And ultimately, as you eliminate candidates and then you start going deeper into the preferences, Denise Simmons ends up faring very well. Right. Well, as I say, the thing is that if you were to do this just based on sort of popularity about who sort of has the right to be mayor, whatever that means, then you can make a case.
It would be more fair,
but remember, the mayor is still the chair of a group of 9 people, and they want as their chair somebody who is sort of going to be even-handed and responsive to all the elected city councilors.
And she was a former school committee member too, wasn't she?
Oh yes, and she's been mayor, and she ran a good meeting.
Been mayor?
She ran a great meeting, actually.
But when was she mayor?
So if I guess am I showing my bias that I think she'd be a great choice?
No, but you're saying she was mayor before.
She was mayor before, and perhaps it's time to be mayor again. We'll see. All right. So anyway, some of the things that were predictable turned out to be true. Some things that were I certainly didn't see came out to be the case. I think maybe one thing, not to sort of go too crazy on data here, but if we could go.
Yeah, just tell me which one.
I said it was.
Vote distribution? No, we did that already.
I'm just hoping I
City council changes?
City council changes, that's the one. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, now this is kind of a.
That might be hard to see.
Yeah, that might be a little hard to see.
Let me just
but we'll just
give it up a little bit. That's not bad.
All right. Well,
all right, that's about as high as you're going to go.
So I boxed in a few things that I thought were some significant things, at least to me. For example, I said how this changes from 2013 to 2015. Okay. So what you see is there were 153 more people in Ward 1 voted, 124 more people in Ward 11 voted, and 240 fewer people in Ward 8.
Interesting.
Now, you can see some of the reason for that, because what I have there to the left of the divider bar are the candidates. These aren't all candidates. The minor candidates I just dropped out for this one.
Sure.
So only the sort of the slate and viable candidates.
So in Ward 8, what are we looking at here?
So I would say there that what you see is you see Logan Leslie ended up over to the right. This is 2013.
Okay, right. This is 2013.
So he brought in a good chunk of votes, like 100 or so votes there. A rather large share of his total of 500 votes were all coming out of Ward 8. I think that's one factor. Yeah. Why there was a real drop in turnout is that people just didn't go and ask those people to vote. I think another factor that occurred to me, I was actually thinking about this while I was trying to sleep last night, was Mervyn Osborne had a lot of support from people in Ward 8 and westward. Alan Steinert was a big supporter.
This is school committee we're talking about now.
For school committee, but the thing is that that also affects who comes out to vote.
Yes.
So with Mervyn not running, some of the drive to bring out some of those votes wasn't happening as much. So that also contributed to the lower voter turnout in that particular ward. And then those voters were then unavailable for other city council candidates as a result. So there was some interplay between the two races this way. Some of the other boxed-in quantities
you've got a lot of boxes in Ward 9 here. What's that mean?
Well, let me just go to the very bottom row on the left. The 1,203
Yeah, that
fewer
one.
votes. That was Leland Chung's loss. He actually lost more than he retained.
Goodness.
Yeah, it was a precipitous drop. So if you look, you'll see negatives all across the city. He lost votes in every single precinct.
But the most in 9, looks like,
in Ward
yes.
9. So those became the votes that a candidate like Jan Devereaux then picks up, which is in the box just to the right of that. Also some of the loss from Mark McGovern. But, there were other candidates like Sam Seidel and Ken Reeves who were not in the running there.
Right.
Now, perhaps the single most anomalous looking number in this entire array of vote changes from year to year is Nadim Mazen in Ward 11, Precinct 1. All right, so you go down to the bottom.
Yeah, the 163.
Right out of nowhere,
yeah.
163 additional ballots. Number 1 ballots, number 1 votes in a single precinct.
Wow.
Right? That's huge. I mean,
well, again, so 11-1 is where? That's Jan Devereaux's?
No, 11-1 is up around, it basically includes Ringe Towers.
Okay.
Along Ringe Avenue.
Huh.
So, now, I kind of knew that was going to happen in advance. I just didn't know what the scale was going to be.
Why did you know that?
Because 2 years ago, in I forget which count, when Mushtaq Mirza was counted out, a huge number, like 100 some odd ballots, went to Nadim Mazen.
Okay. So there's a constituency there that supports. Okay.
That's right. So there's sort of a religious affiliation. So that's why I knew there was going to be. Mushtaq sadly passed away this past year, earlier this year. And also Ken Reeves used to draw votes from some of the Muslim voters around Ringe Towers. So if you actually look at the total of the 44 that Reeves wasn't getting because he wasn't running, and the 113 that went to Mushtaq, or if you add them up, it's very comparable on the same order of magnitude to the additional 163 ballots that Mazen picks up there, right? And that's what makes him more popular than, let's say, Denny Simmons, is because he picks that up those big chunk right there. Yeah. Now, to be fair, he also picks up ballots all across the city, but the thing is that nothing even close to what happened in Ward 11, Precinct 1. Right? That was a huge jump right up there.
Yeah.
All right, so anyway, these are just some of the changes that you can see here if you look and do comparisons from year to year. One of the things that I noted here was that Craig Kelly
I see that.
is actually becoming a very established, strong, neighborhood-based candidate now. He's essentially becoming the North Cambridge councillor.
Yeah.
I think the fact that he was affiliated with the slate of some of the old-time independents, like Tim Toomey and David Marr, probably washed away some of the misgivings some of the people up there might have had.
Yes.
And now he's solidly getting more and more support out there. So he actually ended up with 341 more number 1 votes this time than he got 2 years ago.
That's good.
And that's why he was pretty safe in this. Of course, you never say safe in a PR election, but after the fact, it's okay to say that he was not sort of on the verge of being eliminated. He was quite securely situated in there. So he ran a really, really excellent campaign.
Yeah. I think people like his independence. I mean, even though he was on the slate, he's
his own guy. He's absolutely
his own guy.
And so he picked up a good chunk of votes in Ward 10. He picked up a good chunk of votes in the 11-2 and 11-3. So
makes a difference.
Did really, really well. So.
And you're looking at McGovern here. You've boxed those. He's lost votes in
Mark
Ward 9.
Actually overall got almost the same number of ballots as he did last time. But maybe he wanted to do better. Yeah. But he lost some in the Ward 9, which was, he expected that was going to happen. But that was really because I think of the Devereaux campaign that really, really won that over.
Right.
So anyway, I think we kind of
exhausted
the numbers here.
Okay.
Believe me, I can go crazy with these numbers.
Sure.
I could go on forever and ever with them, right? So hopefully that wasn't too nerdy here today.
And also, these are available if you want to look at them again. They're on your site.
Yeah, I have them up on the Cambridge Civic Journal site.
Right.
Actually, not all of them. I think some of these ones I just put up here just in the
but it was under materials. Yeah,
if you
still find it.
Actually, if you go under InsideOut and just go
Cambridge
to
is
the
right
date
on
of the
top.
show, you can actually access everything that we were bringing up here. If you want it, that'll be your homework assignment.
Right.
Class.
Yes.
All right. So, So anyway, all told, much of this election was sort of predictable. I would say some of the part that for me was unpredictable was how Mazen was going to do.
And Dennis Benzin not getting in.
You know, my personal feeling about that is maybe he needed to really beg those number one votes some more.
A little more.
I think the fact that Leland Chung needed number one votes rather than giving
that was a
surplus
surprise.
votes. I mean, he had to gather up transfer votes to get for him to be elected.
You can't take things for granted.
Yeah,
you know, and I think
but they were then unavailable for people like Dennis Benzin, so it was in the game of musical chairs. Somebody was going to be left without a chair.
Have you gone to a city council meeting since the election?
Yeah, I was there was a roundtable meeting and a special meeting last night, so I was there.
So what was the tone?
You know, it's actually pretty matter of fact. Dennis
Really?
doesn't look too downtrodden or anything like that, you know.
People being civil.
Yeah, and I think he'll run again in 2 years. I'm absolutely certain of it, and he's got a lot of support. A lot of people, quite honestly, a lot of people in his neighborhood are a little stunned at the loss of Dennis Benzin. They kind of see a shift of power from their neighborhood over to the west side of Cambridge, and there's a little bit of resentment going on there.
All right, well, they'll get more involved, so that's good.
Well, you know, hopefully this will be the city council where people kind of put aside a lot of that stuff, but you never know. You know, they're human beings, and human beings.
You'll keep us apprised of it.
Well, absolutely will. Yeah. So anyway, I think that's primarily it, and we're down to our last 15 or so seconds here anyway. So. So in coming weeks, maybe we may even have some guests on here. Now that we're
just the two of us, you know, or one of us might not be here, and we'll interview someone else.
But we'll have you know, less election oriented, and sort of get back to sort of the general civic
what's going on,
gestalt of the city. So anyway, until next week, this has been another fun edition
of Cambridge Inside Out. Good night.